Mr. Mbalula, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. I have been asking for an interview with you for how long, but finally it happens. Um, there are a number of things, a plethora of situations or issues that we need to discuss, but I want us to focus more on what happened from the 29th of May until where we are now. You've been in this position for 18 months, 19 months now. Could not have been easy for you as the first Secretary General to transverse this kind of situation in the ANC. What was it like for you, Mr. Mbalula, when you started seeing the numbers and you had your polls had already told you that you would dip below 50%. But when you started seeing the numbers and the numbers were telling you that you would now have to start talking to the DA, what did that conversation start then, or had it already started?
Thank you very much for this opportunity and for having us. We started the discussion in earnest with political parties, not before, after. And we're confident that we're going to make it below 50%. I think we didn't we saw Zuma as a danger, but we didn't think that it will be as big as it is, which is what has basically happened. We thought of dropping from 3 to 5%. At best, we'll get to between 52, 53. We'll still form government. Not 17%, all gone. And so the Zuma factor became a biggest issue. All political parties dropped in a low voter turnout. There are all sorts of factors that led to the voter turnout. The weather was good. The campaign was good. The period of campaigning was good. The low voter turnout during the week on a Wednesday, when we had an expectation that it will be bigger, was also something that affected us. But even in the low voter turnout, we're still confident that we'll garner about 8 million people to vote for us, and so on. But it did not actually happen. So we did not start discussing with anyone before, including the DA.
When you making your own assessments, and I imagine that you've started making an assessment of what happened, how you got to 17% of your votes in a decrease. Do you only attribute it to the low voter turnout? What are other attributing factors? I ask this because even during the times of nominations by the branches, it wasn't as significant as one would have expected from the ANC. Was there a problem within the structures itself going into these elections?
We pushed very hard to get people enthused about the election to the point where on the day they will come out in numbers. We got good numbers in terms of volunteers on the ground. We got good numbers and good crowds in terms of our events. We ran a smart campaign, which we knew at what point it must peak, and it did. I think the issue of political voter apathy due to factors in the economy have affected the general populace and our base in a big way. And you can see that to get that 5 million is not a child's play. It meant that we really had to dig deep into our reserves. We got a big support from our stalwarts. As much as Zuma left, we got a big endorsement from Thabo Mbeki. So it will tell you where that 6 million come from. Otherwise, it would have been worse. Because we came into this election with a number of factors that counted against us. First, the mood in the country was not all good, but it did not favor the ANC as a ruling party. We had to deal with external factors and support to what we may characterize as regime change in South Africa. Quite emboldened, and a lot of resources and a lot of political parties were formed to get us below 50%. And also, Zuma came with MK Party, which then became a factor, but also the strategy he played and the tactic, I think that I'm still a member. It counted in his favor. He left with a lot of ANC people and ANC support, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal. You must remember that in 2009, when the ANC was dropping from 2/3 majority in 2004 from Thabo Mbeki, 2009 Zuma became a president, and we had lost KZN in the elections. And then we had increased slightly to about 47% in 2004, 1 million vote from Natal we got. In 2009, the NFP was formed, and Jacob Zuma became the president of the ANC. KZN cushioned us with 2 million votes in our favor, and we got 65%. And Jacob Zuma became the president. So we then took KZN totally out of the hands of the IFP. And that factor played itself out in this election. With the departure of Isilo Samabandla, may his soul rest in peace, and Umntwana Ubuthelezi, Zuma became a factor in KZN. IFP was not really a big challenge for us. The big challenge was Jacob Zuma. Zuma as a factor that we have had to contend with. So nothing was there to cushion us, and that vote, 2.3 million, that 2 million left us and then went into the hands of Jacob Zuma, nowhere else. And largely from pockets of Gauteng in the hostels, the IFP lost, and its numbers were reduced to 1 seat. And all those numbers went to Jacob Zuma party. And a part of Mpumalanga, Mkondo, went to Jacob Zuma party. So the Zuma factor in this election account for a splinter group in the ANC born out of inherent weaknesses, subjective of factionalism in the party. So it worked against us in this election. So that's the second factor. The first one, which I've mentioned, is economy. We had load shedding, and for the longest of time. We also had the cost of living, job creation. There's what I may characterize, in the lack of better word, a stalemate of job creation in the Republic. Numbers of unemployed increased. So that dampened the spirit. Meaning, there is nothing that urged me to stand up and vote because I'm unemployed anyway. And the economy is not doing well. As much as we increased our social security net to look after the unemployed and the poor and all of that, but quite clearly people want to do things for themselves. They want to work. They want to participate in the economy. Load shedding must go. And then a number of factors, the underperforming local government in terms of service delivery. When we went to houses, people opened their homes for us left and right, but they acknowledged that in the past 30 years, a lot of improvements have been made, but they continue to complain and to cry about local government, completely demobilized. So when the numbers did not come up as we would have expected, it was quite clear that those factors did count against us in a big way.
You've steered me towards former President Jacob Zuma, and I was going to go there later on, but since we are there now, one then wonders, Nobala, did you underestimate his influence? I'm talking before December 16th, in that former President Jacob Zuma had a very fractured relationship with the top seven. There were even talks that, he was blue ticking you, you specifically, and your DSG, Unomvula Mokonyane, and that you had not, in fact, the KZN PC had campaigned on the ticket that it would support former President Jacob Zuma, but it did not during his times with these challenges with the courts. Do you think there was an underestimation of his influence in the country and an estimation of his influence in KZN and even with your own members?
No, we knew that Zuma is a factor all time. I mean, that's why at the platform of the national conference, I did speak to him directly and said it's about time that we talk. I followed up with him, both in terms of asking to see him, sending emissaries, and also writing a letter to him, and he avoided me. And then I sent Mdu to go to KZN. I was going out of the country. Quite clearly, we gathered intelligence that this MK party belongs to Zuma. We worked very hard to undermine its existence because it was going to confuse the voters. It comes directly from us in terms of our history and our heritage, and something that was still challenging even now. But it was too close to the election, and it simply pepped Zuma up. Quite a risky factor. But it's quite clear that Jacob Zuma tended to become another animal. And he knew that him coming in as a leader, he was closing a void, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal. And he used that against us in the name of fighting the Ramaphosa and EC. So we have always known, even in the last election, when we analyze in local government, the 46%, there was Shembe Church there. There was royalty in that analysis. There was as well Jacob Zuma factor. So Jacob Zuma factor in relation to the riots, Jacob Zuma in terms of him being arrested and a victim in a way. So that undermined the hegemony of the ANC. Jacob Zuma himself participated in the campaign and said that people must not hate the ANC. If it's Lima Zuma, I quote him, says Zenzela izinto zazo. Why uzawuyeki ANC because of Islima Zuma? Vote for the ANC. So he changed now, and it's only him and him only who knows what is his gripe, which he has explained against the president and all sorts of things that he basically said, which we disagree with him fundamentally with some of those things.
Would you facilitate a conversation between the two leaders?
We have done that. I think it is way beyond now. We're living in a new environment and terrain where in which it has happened. And I'm happy this election is over because the reality and the truth has come out. We know what we're dealing with. It was a difficult election as it was characterized. It is the difficult campaign. We know the weaknesses and what we need to do to get out of this particular situation. So a lot has been said, but it's all said and done now. It's water under the bridge. We need to prepare the organization to be formidable politically, to master the terrain and these uncharted waters, and go forward and win the war at the end of the day.
Let's talk about this preparation to be formidable and master the terrain. I imagine that would be a mammoth task for you, particularly in KZN, given that most of your members were co-opted into the MK party and some still are being co-opted into the MK party. Would you have to do a complete overhaul? And I think you know what that means. That would mean a disbandment of the entire structure and start from scratch. What does that mean?
We know now who belongs to MK,
okay,
and who has been fooling us in the process. Some of the information we had, but we deliberately took a stance of not pushing people out. But some of them came out and they declared their colors to the mast. We are here. They've left the ANC. But MK party is nothing without Zuma, with due respect. We went to a by-election. MK party, 14 by-elections in KZN, they got one. Majority went to the IFP, we became number 2. Because the by-election was about the contestation of the wards. You have the emblem MK party, but the face is the person in your ward. And the result was different. The wards that we lost 2 weeks back, we won them now with the ANC. So people went to the and you don't have to blame it on anyone. People went to the elections with the T-shirts and the face of Ramaphosa as the president of the ANC, and then they went inside there and told electoral officers that we are voting for the ANC of Msholozi inside. And then they came out singing our songs, our regalia, our slogans. But they said, iyafana lento. But we vote for what we like. Tina standa ANC kamsholozi. So we know the truth now, what it means. So Jacob Zuma must steer the ship. It's going to be difficult for him to establish MK into a party. It's going to disintegrate because they're first going to fight over positions like they do now, and it's going to degenerate because they don't have an ideology, they don't have a program of action. Everything they speak, they verbose is ANC.
Does that mean that your door is still open to those who have defected?
They will come back. The ANC only rejected the incorrigible. They will come back, like they have done already now. Others have come back to the party. And that's what is going to happen. And good luck to Zuma and his party that it remains to be seen whether MK will become a formidable force in the body politic of South Africa. Because most of those people there have got, some of them, not good history, even in the ANC. And if you were to have any one of them to become the face and not Jacob Zuma, they wouldn't have garnered these numbers.
I suppose then what you're saying to me is that there's no reason to do a complete overhaul in KZN, to disband structures in KZN.
We don't have to disband structures in KZN because people who don't want to be in the ANC have left.
Okay.
And then there are very few sleepers who are still there in KwaZulu-Natal. But KZN, where it is now, is very clean. People who were destined to leave and were one way or the other affecting our party in terms of its growth negatively have left with JZ. And others have been dismissed in terms of disciplinary action and all of that. We are a party in which I can say we're very clean now, and there's no need to be sniffer dogs and run a campaign, a negative campaign against others, disbanding structures, and all of that. All hands on deck. No more mistakes. An act of ill-discipline is punishable. We must be decisive, and we are going to be. So, to get the ANC back on track, we must accelerate the renewal. That's what is important. The NEC, it will meet, make reflections, and take a deep dive in terms of what happened. Out of that, we need to reorganize, which is what we are already thinking about, and adapt the ANC to the new conditions at the present moment. The conditions of power sharing, the conditions of consolidating where we are in charge.
I suppose that adaptation means that you and this house that we're in right now has to be resourced, aggressive resourcing in Luthuli House to ensure that your policies are implemented. Minister Njaveni was just talking yesterday, I believe, where she talked about Vision 2030 and the NDP being the filter which parties will look to in terms of implementing policy in government. So what does it mean for you at Luthuli House, this adaptation?
We are already in the process of implementing what is called the reorganization of the ANC, which structure has been adopted. It's just to panel beat it right now. We'll present it in the next coming NEC, not later than that. This period also, now that the elections is over, we're going to another election. This year, it gave us an opportunity to reorganize ourselves without pressures of the election. I can tell you that you will see it getting into the local government. We need to build our research capacity. Phoebe is full-time, and the team, they need to beef up to support our ministers and the legislature, particularly the National Assembly, but also to police our ministers, everybody, to police the policy itself in terms of its implementation. Are we making headways? And ANC doesn't have to start from afresh. Our manifesto is our program of action. This weekend and next week, we have said no lekgotla. Let government deployees go and panel beat the implementation of the program of action for the state, which largely must be defined by the manifesto 6 priorities of the African National Congress. We will back them up organizationally. The biggest enemy and animal in the ANC is a social distance with our people.
Yeah.
We cannot afford that. It was very painful in the election to get into the houses of people whom we see they love the ANC, but in their faces, they were really, really distraught and disappointed. Our public representatives, our councillors, we control the biggest wards, many wards in the Republic. We need to talk a different story. It must be a different story in terms of our connection with the people. It must be a central focal point. We have been looking too much inward.
Yeah.
Everybody expects that the ANC will get out of this bruising, threatening, existential situation for the ANC. And everybody says, you will see them, they will go back and fight for who becomes a leader in the next conference. That's what they are going to invest their energies in as a party. Inward looking, who becomes the next leader. Ramaphosa is leaving.
Mbalula is, because that's what we've come to expect from the ANC.
Yeah, Mbalula is running. Mashatile is running. Whoever is running, Mbalula is wanted, and all of that. Those things are not going to take us anywhere. That's what we said even in this election. We said when other comrades were preoccupied about who becomes the next leader, I can tell you for free that when you were campaigning, people will even coin things along the lines, no, this one is campaigning for himself. And this one is not campaigning, and all of that. And we kept on saying to our comrades, power can go. It will go. Check at the Sandinistas. Stop this preoccupation about positions. You are killing the organization. Let everyone lead at the right time according to their abilities. But that must not be the preoccupation of the ANC. If we are going to go on business as usual, do the things that we are expected to do that are negative, look inward, kiss this revolution goodbye. Stop wasting time. Just leave it to others to take over and run with it. That moment has not arrived. The people said to us, it has not. You must reorganize, come back. We still give you a mandate. We still believe in you. Go on. So, uti umuntu makunje siyamshaya. Simshaya manje. So, if umuntu uzodlala ngalento, and then they think that is business as usual, simshaya manje. So that I can promise you, my sister, that we have learned a lot, that this thing is not a given. Working for the people and to be in power forever, it requires a different machinery.
And I suppose with that machinery, Nobala, when I look, for instance, at the second DSG, one would have thought that she would have remained here, given that this second position was opened for monitoring and evaluation. She went to government. What was the rationale around that?
Well, the rationale is that you are then easily linking up with the ANC and able to drive this monitoring and evaluation from that side and this side. So you are talking to a person who occupies the same position. So that monitoring and evaluation in government, the president, in terms of reconfiguration, is going to strengthen it, among others. And then the DSG's capacity at Luthuli House is going to be strengthened. In terms of research, we have already appointed NEC member to lead that capacity here at Luthuli House. So it's going to reinforce each other very nicely, but in the context of the GNU as well, it's going to be necessary to monitor and do a dipstick in terms of ANC performance in government. And that department linking up with the DSG on a full-time basis, but in government is still good. Here at Luthuli House, we are not depleted.
Okay.
I think at the political level, I work very well with Nomvula. We have not been inward looking, squabbling and all of that. She's got the right energy. She respects me. I respect her. That's what is important. We don't make each other favors. You know, it's unbelievable, the camaraderie between us. It's not like we're tolerant to each other. We've got good people, Makura. Here at Luthuli House, we had him do, now he's gone. We must replace him. Who else is full-time here? We've got Phoebe, he's full-time. We've got the TG. The TG has been doing a great job to keep us afloat, to pay us salaries, very good salaries every month, without fail. She will need more resources, more creative ways to raise money. She's been doing that. Look, our team here at Luthuli House is solid, and the best out of it is yet to be seen. But we're solid here. We've got comrades we have drawn from government. They did not pitch here because they did not make it elsewhere. They came here, deployed by the ANC deliberately to come and work here. I mean, Makura came back as a premier. Yeah, we could have sent him to. I know he wanted to become minister, so I said, no, you're not going there. You are staying here with me. And look, he loves it here. We love it here. And so we're just going to be something else. Mahlengi is here, and then NEC members. So we've got a good bunch of people here. And elections took and consumed a lot of our energy and time. You know, since I've been SG, I've not been to provinces to visit them, to do a state of the organization report. Now, I'm going to each and every province myself. With the organizing team, I'm going to see each and every region, every branch of the ANC. And I will be able, with the SGO, to present a report to the NEC about the state of organization. One of the things that cost us in this election is a dire state of organization on the ground. Yesterday, I was talking to the workers, SAMO. They were telling me about problems at local government with mayors and challenges and all of that. But where is the ANC branch? The ANC branch has disappeared. What we've got careerists, people who sit on WhatsApp groups 24/7, insult leadership, plot the demise of the organization, forever not satisfied about positions. Half of the complaints I get here in my phone from ANC members, most of those problems are about positions. SG, come and intervene here. I'm being removed as a councillor. SG, don't allow this mayor to be appointed. The best one is Lizeka, it's Mbalula. Careerism, just about positions and contestation about the resources. That's when you see that the party is mortgaged. So we need to get back to that. We need to come back from that situation.
I want to talk about your relationship with the DA, Nobala. I mean, the past month talks about talks all the way down to negotiations, and the statement has been, you've been at loggerheads. I mean, it was two bulls, you and Helen Zille, and she's a bull in her own right. How do you see this relationship evolving, given the kind of temperament that the DA has towards the ANC?
It's working in the GNU with the DA does not make the DA to stop being an opposition. You can see also the direction that is taken by their ministers. I'm a DA minister. It is not done in government. You serve people across. So once you say, I'm an ANC minister, then you make society to view you in a different direction in relation to the constituencies you must serve. But nonetheless, it's DA. So they will want not to be swallowed to maintain their identity as opposition, even in government. How is that going to play out in the context of the constitution and the functioning of the executive is to be seen. But we have put checks and balances in place in relation to how we must deal with matters that may be difficult going forward between the parties, not only DA, all parties who are serving in the GNU.
The deadlock mechanisms, is that?
Yeah, the deadlock breaking mechanisms, and if there is an impasse on matters of policy and all of that, what are we going to do with that? So that is the second phase of this discussion we have not had with all parties. We have a statement of intent. Now we've got to move beyond that to have an agreement of how we are going to make the statement of intent in terms of things that we agreed that must not happen going forward. So the DA will remain DA, ANC, and it is absolutely incorrect to suggest that the ANC has sold out to the DA. And the point is that we chose the path of GNU, which is a reflection of the outcome of the election in this country. And we chose that for stability, for progress of this great nation. We chose that for national interest. We chose that for the people of this country. Otherwise, we will have dig in and behave like as if nothing has happened. and the people will be surprised. I mean, South Africa all round have welcomed the ANC position, which has led to the establishment of the GNU. Genuine South Africans out there have said, our democracy has matured. If it was in another country, the ruling party having lost in the way it has done, it would have done things that are unimaginable, including trying to rerun an election and all of that. The ANC have shown and have supported the maturing democracy, and by taking a path that unites our people going forward. But it's not a melting pot where ourselves we cease to be who we are. We define this as a setback, fundamental setback, but it is a setback that enables us to still fight for the National Democratic Revolution and its success.
Has the ANC calculated the impact of working with these parties, especially the DA and Freedom Front Plus, in terms of alienating its own base? I say this with, if you're looking, for instance, here in Gauteng, and how vigorously the PEC was against working with the DA.
No, it's incorrect. It's a question of pseudo-revolutionaries who are gossiping. There's never been a vigorous campaign to isolate and not working with DA. We went to the NEC and followed and adopted a framework of engagement. We started first by saying, let's talk to everybody. And I want to unpack that distortion about Gauteng. And the relationship and cooperation we have sought out of this process was distorted, as meaning that the ANC is getting into a marriage with the Democratic Alliance, which is incorrect. We and the DA are like water and oil. We are like that. But for
ideologically opposed.
Yes, and for national interest, we came together to work in the GNU arrangement. The DA initially in the discussions was more in favor of
Grand Coalition.
Not Grand Coalition, confidence and supply model, which is minority government. Confidence and supply agreement means that we will work in the legislature and then go on and form your own government, and that's it. But they reviewed, they said, no, we want to participate within government. And all other parties agreed, except for MK. I don't know what they stand for, because they were back and forth about whether they come in government and put preconditions about our president. But they said it's not a red line, MK party, but they put that as a precondition, and then they disappeared in the mix, because MK party is run by Zuma. So up until you meet with Zuma, I don't believe anyone who have met should be taken serious.
Had you met with Zuma? Have you met with Zuma at all?
We've never met with Zuma. Zuma has sent people who claimed that they are being sent by him.
Okay.
So up until, remember, Zuma said he want to rescue the ANC. That's why he formed MK party. So he has not come to the ANC and said that I've got these 2 million people. Yeah, take them. But for that to happen, I need the following. He has not come. Instead, after the elections, he went out and said that Fanelas Babulale, we must be killed, we must disappear, and all of that. So quite clearly from this election, it is not clear what is that rescue plan that he wanted, except that the rescue plan is for the ANC to do away with its president, which is not possible. Hell no, that will not actually happen. So these are uncharted waters, Lizeka. Everything is to be seen in the process as to what will actually happen. But what I can tell you is that the ANC understand this particular space, and at the same time will work to be a formidable party going forward.
I want to speak about the statement of intent where it says that the GNU will decide at the GNU Lekgotla the policy framework. What does that mean for the ANC's manifesto?
The policy framework means that the framework means for all the parties who participate there is that the 6 priorities of the ANC will find expression in that GNU government. It means the Lekgotla that is going to take place will then bring into practical program of action the implementation of the ANC manifesto as the program of action of government.
And everyone in this GNU is well aware of that.
Everyone in the GNU is well aware of that. I mean, individuals in terms of their ministries and themselves may want to bring in things that we don't agree with, and we will definitely not just make it clear, oppose such. So it's not a melting pot. It doesn't mean that if somebody comes there with new ideas that undermine social transformation, we will agree with. Working with all others there, we will work for the social transformation of South Africa. If there are people there who want to undermine that and push us back, we will oppose that within the GNU framework. Within the GNU framework, we will accelerate the implementation of the 6 priorities of the mandate we got of 6 million people, and even those who did not vote, to accelerate the social transformation in South Africa.
I want to ask you about the national dialogue, Nobala. How does this fit in to this program of action? You've talked about phase 2. I suppose phase 3 would be the national dialogue. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. The national dialogue is about constructing a social compact amongst civil society. President Ramaphosa spoke about this whilst in the campaign and beyond that. And President Mbeki spoke about it as well. The national dialogue has been embraced now by everybody. So we're looking at the last 30 years of democracy, and then what is key for South Africa going forward as we continue to build the Rainbow Nation, as in South Africa Inc. So it is important that the national dialogue must be understood in that particular context. I suppose we ourselves will give more meat to that, to say what is it that we want the national dialogue to achieve out of this process itself, because it's an elaboration of President Ramaphosa's call for a social compact. And even the 55th National Conference of the ANC in 2022 affirmed it. And the idea is that you need a broad national conversation about the experience of the last 30 years. The idea is to build a broad social contract with all stakeholders, community organizations, civil society, churches, unions, business, and academia.
Is there a time frame for this? Because this is an urgent initiative, I would imagine, considering where we are with this GNU. Is there a time frame of when this will happen?
Our expectation is that government is going to Lekgotla this coming week. After that, we go to the State of the Nation. It will be part of government program of action, and immediately the national dialogue will fall into place.
My last questions, because I understand that you have time constraints, Nobala, and it's around Gauteng GPU.
doesn't have the majority. It's a minority government if you look at it. How then does it pass budgets? Have you factored that in? Have you considered what happens in terms of passing the budget, passing certain bills that would need to be passed in that legislation?
Well, it's a minority government with confidence, and supply, which means that you'll have to seek agreements with political parties in order to pass budget. That's what it is. So political parties will say that this is what we want in terms of the budget, and we come to the party, and then so you will then negotiate an agreement with them, those who have not formed part of government, to look at their issues in relation to such matters, with the aim of ensuring that you pass a budget.
Are you aware of any agreements that have been made with the EFF?
No, I'm not aware of, but I'm aware of engagement with the EFF and the MK party and all other parties within the Gauteng GNU arrangement.
What would the exchange be?
No, it was the talks about talks, where they basically said they don't want to come in, and then they subscribe to confidence and supply, and not to grand coalition with the ANC. They understand the strategic framework of the ANC and the path we have chosen of a GNU. So that on their part constrained their involvement. So that is it. So confidence and supply is the one that will run supreme in Gauteng.
In terms of looking at the economy,
Reign supreme.
Reign supreme.
Yeah.
In terms of looking at our economy at this moment, we slowly moving up. There's hope, but with this GNU, the likelihood of us turning the tide, do you see it being positive?
It can be positive because we agree on the fundamentals, as much as we do have differences. We agree on in terms of the foundational principles of the GNU. We agree on stability, constitutionalism, and the rule of law, or growth, redress, and national unity, peace. So the foundational principles are key to making it work. But equally, you don't have to be a prisoner in the GNU. If it doesn't work for you, you can walk away, but it won't collapse. But its consolidation of these foundational principles will lead to positive impact in the economy, in terms of growth, business coming to the party, into a social compact, which they've already started to be party to, and then genuinely work with government in the creation of jobs for South Africa.
You interact ever so often with investors, with your peers in different countries, ambassadors and the likes. What have they said to you about this GNU?
They are very positive, because they say that in other countries, I think the other country had more than 100 days to try and form a government post the elections, a coalition government and so on. In South Africa, it was quite quick, and it happened within a very short space of time. So they acknowledge the leadership of South Africa. We didn't have to get international observers and the countries to come here and assist us. We did it our own way, South African way, bloodless, and we did it our own South African way, by increasing the index in the world of solution-driven country. We got where we got to out of our own. We got our own truth and reconciliation. We've got our own GNU. You guys have been predicting that there will be a coalition in South Africa, what's going to happen and all of that. And that will the ANC accept the outcome of the election and all of that. Once more, we have shown, like others predicted, that this will be our 1994. It was in many ways. Maturity, decisive leadership, and maturing democracy. So, siyakula. There's no looking back. So the rest of the continent and the world marvel at South Africa, and so we got positive feedback from the world about what has just happened in our country.
No, but I have just 3 last questions to ask. Helen Zille spoke to Sam Kokeli for the Sunday Times last week, where she said that they were actually prepared to walk away. They were going to walk away to some extent in the discussions with the ANC, particularly the discussions between Mr. John Steenhuisen, now Minister John Steenhuisen, and President Ramaphosa. Were you prepared to go into this GNU without the DA?
Read the letter of the president. I'll leave it there.
You'll leave it there.
Yeah. We worked for this GNU genuinely, and we're not just going to create GNU for the sake of it. We had to give people who came into this GNU and the rest of South Africa genuine ministries. We gave the PAC land reform. It's not a favor. We know they will do well in relation to that, because others thought that we're just being woodwinked, ANC tactics and all of that, but they will still go and want to have it on their own. We didn't. We gave DA public works, agriculture, we gave good tourism, Al-Jama deputy social development, Holomisa defense, where he belongs. So we've got no fear. And this notion that there is a sellout concept and fear of the unknown, it's not there. Our comrades must acknowledge that we did not win election. And this notion of flirting with EFF and MK party as though there is this black consciousness that has arisen, which is not even Stephen Biko's black consciousness. It's just opportunistic, driven, no ideological content to it, as though EFF and Umkhonto weSizwe will be better than anyone else. They are the most dangerous, by the way, because they eat from our base. And then, in an actual fact, EFF, in one of our engagements with them, they said we are a dying party. We are better off to die in their hands than anyone else. That's what they said to us. So, and they said they wanted us removed surgically everywhere else. But they failed in relation to that. And to us, everyone is the same. They differ in degrees. And we are on our own. We are the only party that is driving a project, an ideological program that is called the National Democratic Revolution. Solid. Colonialism of a special type. The resolution of the South African question is primarily about addressing and resolving the national question, race, class, and gender, and taking our people out of poverty and underdevelopment. It's a program of action. It is there. What do they say? Concoction of ideologies coming together. DA is that side, we are this side. We know what we're dealing with. They know when they deal with us what we're dealing with. We are a party that will not do away with its character in terms of solidarity, fighting and supporting people, fighting for self-determination across the globe, and fighting for equity within the arrangement of the multilateralism in the world, in the institutions and organizations like the UN, and then that's who we are. Take it or leave it. We are the party that has got workers within its ranks and fight for workers' rights And then we have institutionalized in terms of the constitution enshrined in this country, workers' rights and the defense of the rights of the working people. We are the party that has got the relationship with communists. We are a party that has got capitalist within its ranks. In our strategy and tactics, our engagement with business and capital, let's talk capital, is unity and struggle of the opposite. We are not the Communist Party. Everybody belongs here. That's why it's a multi-ideological organization. It's unique in terms of its characteristics. How can we be a dying party? We are not. We have suffered a fundamental setback, and we analyze it and we see it among ourselves. It's written all over. EFF, DA, all small political parties combined did not defeat the ANC. Jacob Zuma did, coming out of the ranks of the African National Congress. Oliver Tambo was right. The ANC will never die. It will be the ANC that will kill itself from its ranks. And Zuma has done that in 2024. That's it.
Is it then fair? No, but I've got two more questions. Is it then fair to say that this GNU is an ANC-led GNU?
It is an ANC-led GNU, as the statement of intent says, that the party, paragraph number 17 of the statement of intent says that the party with the majority will lead the establishment of government. That's what the ANC has done. 40%, we invited everybody. In KZN, we did not win. Jacob Zuma was supposed to invite us to form government. He did not. But here at National, they make noise that we work with the DA. In KZN, he went to the NFP. Pictures were circulating everywhere. He went to the EFF. And then he went to the Inkatha. They made Inkatha to wait for them for 6 hours. They never pitched. Inkatha came to us and invited us. We duly complied. We negotiated with them, but we didn't form government. That government of KZN is led by the IFP. The GNU in South Africa is led by the African National Congress. And that is why the manifesto and the 6 priorities of the ANC must not only find expression, they must be implemented in terms of the government program of action within the GNU.
My last question is around Gauteng.
Yeah.
The projections, and we've been speaking to some people, and they project that you will lose Gauteng completely. You've lost Gauteng already, but you will sink even lower, and the DA is likely to take over Gauteng in 2029. What do you say about this?
We don't take that assertion for granted. It means the ANC must do everything in its power to ensure that the votes that we have shared in this election in Gauteng will be recouped through a convincing minimum program of action that Panyaza and his team are going to implement here. In Gauteng, the urban vote did not come out. If you go to Soweto, our support base, you've got people in Soweto who have been without electricity for 10 years. And who was in charge is the ANC. Thugs have come there, destroyed infrastructure of electricity and all of that, but people who did not have electricity. And we have had to go to those people and ask them to vote for the ANC. And Panyaza was busy solving all these problems in Soweto. Soweto people wouldn't blame the fact that their non-voting has affected the ANC majority in the council, such that we now have got a coalition with other parties in Johannesburg City. They don't say that. They look at the ANC and they blame it on the ANC. So we must use the majority we've got in Gauteng forming government to our advantage to do the right things to recoup the lost vote and re-energize, enthuse, and change the mood in the country and make people believe that no, this is still on. We are not about to leave.
Thank you. Thank you so much, SG, for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.